Goodman. I'm joined by none other than former Arizona head coach Sean Miller, former Indiana head coach Archie Miller. And tonight, boys, we had a lot of action. I don't know if I expected this, but Rutgers did something it's never done before. North Carolina, listen, they've been embarrassed plenty this season, but I think they took it to a different level tonight. We'll also talk about why Xavier needs to be worried, and we'll break down this Big 12 ranked matchup between Baylor and Texas Tech in Lubbock, and what I think is the toughest environment in all of college basketball. But we got to start with Carolina. I mean, again, they've had their share of blowouts. We've seen them: Tennessee, Kentucky, Miami, Wake, Duke. But Sean, this one to your Pitt Panthers in Chapel Hill, I'm telling you, this is the most embarrassing one yet. And I think Carolina's NCAA tournament hopes are pretty much done.
Well, I wouldn't throw in the towel yet, Jeff, but let's tip our cap to the Panthers. They're riding the euphoria of the Aaron Donald Super Bowl victory. They've now won 3 in a row. And, in a season where not a lot's gone right for Pitt, they've had to overcome just about everything. In the month of February, tonight, they secured, no doubt, their best overall victory of the season. So it's not easy to coach and get into that mid-February period of time and actually maybe play your best basketball. But, North Carolina, as long as the two stats on defense remain the same, and this is something we talked about as far back as 8 weeks ago, they're just going to be vulnerable, Jeff. And that is when you don't defend a three-point shot. And tonight, Arch, Pitt made what from three?
They were 10 for 17, shot 59%. Right.
And that's not Pitt's strength, but you give up 10 threes. I don't care the name of your team. You're vulnerable. And then North Carolina forces no turnovers. They don't get steals and blocks like they used to. So, teams pretty much are not going to turn it over, right? They're not going to give them any offense by giving them loud turnovers, and they make threes against North Carolina's defense. And really, any team that feels those two things can get comfortable. And tonight, Pitt got comfortable. And you know what? They rallied at the end, but that game wasn't close. I mean, at halftime, the deficit was almost 20. And throughout the second half, I don't think Pitt ever relinquished the lead. So no doubt about it. I think defensively, it still plagues North Carolina from maybe being the best that they can be.
Arch, I mean, listen, they were 0-7 in quad one games. So you knew they couldn't beat any really good teams, but at least they were beaten up on the quad twos, quad threes, quad fours. I think Pitt was 179 coming into the game. What's that, a quad 4 right now at home?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So now you can't even use that as kind of okay, you know what? They beat everybody they should beat. I get they didn't. Now they haven't done that. I just feel like, again, to me, you can put all the excuses out there. They don't have Dawson Garcia. It's Hubert, first year, all of this stuff. I don't know, man. I just think we're making excuses for them. They've got enough talent. Everybody would take Armando Bacot on their team. Almost anybody in America would start Bacot and Love on their team. Would they not?
No, without doubt. North Carolina has some pieces. They're talented. I mean, Armando Bacot arguably could be ACC Player of the Year, when you get down to it. And Love and RJ Davis, two highly recruited, young guards. They are missing Dawson Garcia. That was a tough blow for Dawson, going home to see his family at this time. And it really makes their front court vulnerable and thin. Leaky Black has to play some 4, and he's not really a great 3-point shooter. But that being said, North Carolina's MO, all year, regardless of who they're playing, they've been pretty dominant at home. In the Dean Dome, in the Smith Center, they've put up some big wins by big margins. So I think to be down by 17 at half, to be down by 20 plus in the game, it's odd. But when you look at it, they have a weak spot. Defending the three has been a problem for them. They've given up almost 10 made threes in their losses. They gave up 10 tonight at Pitt at home. But I think the thing that was very startling tonight was Armando Bacot took 6 shots. You know, he's the ACC Player of the Year. He's a double-double machine. And in 26 minutes tonight with some foul trouble in the second half, their best player only took 6 shots. So there's something's off with North Carolina tonight. But they're in a situation now where they're going on the road to Virginia Tech. They have Louisville at home, at State, Syracuse at home, and then at Duke. They alternate home and road, but they're almost in play-in situations right now. They don't have any more room for error. And to win out may still not be enough as you head into the ACC tournament, but they're in a situation now where every game they play is arguably a play-in game. So they're going to have to play with some urgency here these next couple of weeks.
You know, Jeff, the one thing about playing at a place like North Carolina, if you're a player, you're a coach, look, you were one of those iconic programs, right? And that's your competitive advantage, especially in recruiting. But know this, no matter who plays North Carolina, if that isn't their biggest game on their schedule, it's one of them. They're getting everybody's best shot. And right now, if you just kind of watch their team, you know, Villanova gets everybody's best shot, right? You were just at the game. They got the best crowd. They get the hostile environment. They get the team most amped up. You know, that pink out, they pick a game to have that pink out at Providence. What game do they choose when Villanova comes to town? But Villanova, like they're like steel. They're just hardened, and they're accustomed to taking everybody's best shot. When Villanova came to play UCLA in LA, Jeff, and you were at the game in November, that was like the best crowd at Poly Pavilion in a long, long time. They took LA's best shot. They took UCLA's best shot. Carolina's the same. And those players, and right now, like if you don't adjust to that, you're vulnerable, especially when you give up that many threes, that percentage from three, and you do not force any turnovers with your defense. And really, I think that's part of the path that they're living right now.
So I've said this. I said this when Hubert got hired, and he was handpicked by Roy Williams. Okay, so there was nothing Bubba Cunningham, their AD, could do. You know, just like obviously we saw Kay handpick Shire, Hubert was handpicked by Roy. I thought it should have been Wes Miller. I felt like Wes had experience. He knew kind of the recruiting game a little bit, you know, and Hubert honestly validated to me the fact that I didn't think he was the right call when he put his staff together. We've talked about this. Jeff Lebo, I thought was a terrible, terrible pick on the road. If he had made him a special assistant to the head coach, I would have been fine with it. You know, Sean May, never been on the road, never coached on the floor before this year. Lebo had been gone for a while, had no success at Auburn or East Carolina or even Chattanooga. He never got in the tournament in all his years of head coaching. Brad Frederick's been a good assistant, solid assistant for his career. So many Carolina fans right now, right now, are saying to themselves, do we have the wrong guy? Can we, I mean, I've gotten it tonight. Do we make a move after 1 year? I've said there's no way in hell they make a move after 1 year with one of their own, with a guy that was handpicked by Roy Williams. But how long do you give him, guys? If they don't go to the tournament 2 straight years, there's no way Hubert Davis gets a third, is there? Sean?
You're giving me that question, huh? I appreciate it.
I know. Well, listen, I know you guys are coaches. I know you don't want to talk about it. I get it. And I'll be the bad guy here.
Hey, Jeff, look, it's too early to judge, Hubert Davis, in all due respect to, I mean, you got to give him the opportunity to recruit. And look, anytime you go through something for the first time, you learn, and you learn from your success, you learn from your failure. A lot of times you adjust, you adapt, and you come back and you're better than ever before. But I think like in those types of programs, when change happens, there's just an immense amount of pressure. I was that guy when I came to Arizona in 2009. And although a lot had happened previous to me showing up, if in year 2 we struggled, who knows, I may have gotten sent this direction a long, long time ago. But Derek Williams showed up, Solomon Hill showed up, Momo Jones showed up, a couple players that were in our program. Arch was there. They developed. Kyle Fogg, right? And next thing you know, you make a run deep into the tournament, both feet are on the ground, and then you can really take a deep breath and move forward. And I think that everybody has to give, this year it's Hubert Davis, next year it's Jonathan Shire, and I think that those guys will be fine. But the one thing I think as a coach you always want to see is what's their identity. If you watch, let's use Gonzaga as the example. What's so impressive is faces change, one season becomes the next, but it's like efficient, fast break basketball, up tempo, pressure man to man, 3/4 court press. And then it's just, you watch it, the faces and names change. And that's the Zags. That's the way they play. And I think for a long, long time, we've all become accustomed to watching Carolina be that same team. It's named the Carolina break. Push on makes and misses, right? Using defense to create offense, going inside, killing you on the offensive glass. That identity changed from a year ago till now, right? They're not that same offensive rebounding team. They're trying to play a little bit more skilled, and with that adjustment, it's going to take a little bit more time. But eventually, we're going to all have to see that identity, and I'm sure we will.
Yeah, I think you got to give them at least 2 years. I mean, I've always said with most coaches, you want to give them a full recruiting cycle. You want to give them 4 years, but at places like Carolina, that rule may not apply. And again, it's not like Hubert wasn't on staff previously. That's the other thing. You're not bringing in a brand new guy like both of you came in at Arizona and Indiana with nobody else. Hubert has been there, so I'm not sure he needs 4. But I would say there's no way you make a move after 1. That is completely unfair to, again, one of the better human beings in this business. Another really good human being, Steve Pikiell at Rutgers. And man, have they come out of nowhere, completely off the grid. I feel like there's always one program that does this every year. They just come out of nowhere. Well, Rutgers has done that with 4 straight ranked wins. Tonight's coming up the Jersey Mike's Arena, Arch, not the rack. Jersey Mike's Arena. Wire-to-wire win over Illinois. Why has Rutgers been able to get back in the mix? Because they were kind of left for dead. Let's face it. Would they lose to Lafayette and UMass back-to-back? DePaul, I think it was 3 games back-to-back in November.
Yeah. I mean, their non-conference was really tough. They were going through losing God, his name is escaping me, but Jacob Young at Oregon.
Yeah.
And then big fella at UCLA, 2 really big cogs in the wheel. And as they came into this year, Geo Baker was injured in the non-conference. Geo Baker's a terrific player, and they struggled in the non-conference. But the thing about Rutgers is, and it's not just at the rack, Steve Pikiell's teams really defend. And they play hard as hell, and they will rebound the hell out of the ball, and they keep themselves in the game. And when you add in the fact that Geo Baker's a senior, Ron Harper Jr. is a senior, Caleb McConnell is a senior, Paul Mulcahy is a 3-year starter as a junior, and those dudes have been through not only the wars, but when they were freshmen, they were getting their heads kicked in. They went to the NCAA tournament in 2020, the year that the tournament got canceled. If you remember, it would have been their first bid in I don't know how many years. Those guys were sophomores at the time. Last year, they went to the tournament, played in it. And now you bring that same crew back this year, and everyone's surprised that they're winning. They got off to a rough start. And right now they sit at 10-5 in the Big Ten. They're 1 game out of first place.
Amazing.
And, I think it's
amazing.
It's the unique thing, I think, that happens when you do play in the Big Ten is you have such an amazing opportunities in front of you to play against great marquee teams. And when you get a couple wins like that, you get on a run. But last year, Rutgers in January lost 5 straight games from the 1st of January until the end, and they rallied. They got tough guys. They got a great staff, and Steve Pikiell is just an unbelievable, nuts and bolts guys. He just sticks with it, and they go to Purdue this weekend. If they lose to Purdue this weekend, is it over? No, they're going to keep coming, and I think that Rutgers will be there at the end. They're going to have a very unique resume, though, of a team with a 340 non-conference with no wins is going to have to come out of the Big Ten and maybe win 13 games to feel like they have a chance at an at-large bid. And that's with maybe the conference tournament, getting them another one. So they're not out of the woods yet, but I'm going to tell you this much right now. If you watch how they're playing defensively, they're third in the conference right now in Big Ten play only. That's how Rutgers has done it. And in conference play, where it's really changed, they're shooting 38% from three. They've got it going a little bit, shooting the ball. They got a tough matchup with Harper. Paul Mulcahy's really grown up as a player. And I think that Rutgers, I wouldn't be surprised at all as they finish if they're not right there for 12, 13 wins in conference going to the Big Ten tournament. And I hope that is enough because he is one of the truly great guys.
You know, and Jeff, that's a tough place to play, man. I think it's a tough trip for Big Ten teams. You know,
Sean, here's the number. You ready for this number? Yeah. They are 31-3 at home with fans in the last 3 years.
Yeah. I think some of the guys from the Midwest, they land in Jersey and they get into the rack there, and all of a sudden they break out in the hives. You can't make a shot, can't catch the ball. Yeah, it's nasty. It's just, you go from the Midwest to the East, and I think it's always kind of been that way. It is a tough place to play, but Steve Pikiell doesn't get enough credit, man. We laud certain coaches and we give them praise, especially those that maybe don't have the competitive advantage recruiting that some other programs do. And Steve Pikiell, I mean, not only is he doing, more with less, but like I played against some of the players that he had in his program. Yeah. A year ago, the best, you can make a strong argument, the best player in the Pac-12 transferred from Rutgers. When you look at the big fella at UCLA, Miles Johnson, Arch, right?
Miles Johnson.
He is a key cog in UCLA's opportunity to have a great finish to the season. So, he's losing players to transfers, and he's in arguably one of the top 3 conferences in the nation year in, year out, and he's doing it in Rutgers. And, I have a soft spot for Steve Pikiell for this reason. Back in the day when you'd go play at Hartford Civic Center and Chris Smith and Tate George and the fellas were out there, Jeff, when he checked in, I was like, thank God. I got another slow dude out here. I hope he hears me say that because he knows what I'm talking about.
Pike was tough, though.
Foul. Calhoun had him programmed. He would tackle you. He would foul you. He would use his arms and set screens and be tough. But I'm telling you, it was just like, oh, thank you. And you had no break with Chris Smith out there on offense and defense. I tell Rob Douster all the time, like, I know he's a big UConn fan. Chris Smith doesn't get enough credit for being one of the all-time great players in UConn history. Like the timing of him going there and what his teams did, that coincided with the rise of UConn, But yeah, Steve Pikiell, it was nice to see him enter the game. So soft spot for Steve.
Against Illinois. They out-rebounded Illinois 46-28 in that game with Kofi in the game.
Right.
Cliff
Omarui was terrific. He might have had the best game I've ever seen him play.
Cliff was a freshman last year with Big Miles. Now he's all by himself, and they don't play a lot of guys. I think the whole deal with Rutgers, if you really kind of look what's going on, is Paul Mulcahy. He's really awesome. He's kind of playing him like Colin Gillespie a little bit at the point. He backs you down. He had 31 a couple games ago, but he's a tough dude too. They got a tough team.
Identity, Jeff, we just talked about it, like in college sports, it's just, as the names and faces change from one season to the next, you do those same constants in place. Wisconsin basketball, right? It's just the same. And I think Rutgers, Steve playing for Calhoun and, their physicality, their rebounding. I think everybody in the Big Ten, I know Archie used to rave about how tough they are, but they rebound, they're gritty, they're nasty, they're tough. And he tip your cap to those guys, man. They're doing a great job. It's not early January. We're talking about entering the 3rd week here of February, and they're one game out of first place in the Big Ten, right?
Yeah, they have 5 left. I mean, they're at Purdue and at Michigan. Won't be easy. Wisconsin at home, who they just beat, at Indiana, and they have Penn State at home. And they're 10-5. They have to find a way to get to 13 to be able to get to the tournament as an at-large team.
Arch,
Your
real quick,
your statistics, Arch, are amazing. I don't know what you look at, where you get them from. CBS should hire you, or
he's younger
whoever,
than you.
Just to be the stat guy. Like,
I have a guy. I have a guy in my ear like all the great ones.
John,
I mean,
he knows how to use the internet. You're too old. He's the younger generation. I mean, he knows how to actually use Twitter. You're still not on Twitter, Sean.
He can make a guy feel stupid. There's no question about it.
All right. Well, listen. Welcome to the Field of 68 After Dark. We are presented by Bet Rivers. We are now live on Sirius XM, ESPN Radio, Channel 84. We've already kind of talked a little bit about North Carolina's embarrassment that was its loss at home in Chapel Hill to Sean Miller's Pittsburgh Panthers. We've also talked about the big win and the winning streak from Rutgers and Steve Peichel. Now it is time to talk about the one ranked matchup of the night. And that is Baylor, the defending national champs, going to Lubbock, the toughest place to play in America right now, guys. And they come away with a victory, Texas Tech does, without, to me, their most indispensable, their most valuable player, Kevin McCullough. What does this say, Arch, about Mark Adams and the Red Raiders?
I mean, they're a legitimate, not only Big 12 contender, but you have to view them as a team that can advance to a Final Four. What they're doing in the toughest conference in the country and how they developed over the course of the year, how they win with defense, and now their offense, they have enough guys contributing consistently that they're a real threat, not only to win more games in the Big 12 tournament, but to me, they're going to be an impossible team to deal with on a one-day prep in the NCAA tournament after one advanced game. So Texas Tech's been, if not the most impressive team, to date from start to finish. They're one of a couple that you got to argue, but they're legitimate. They're a legitimate title contender. I think you have to look at them beating Baylor, beating the Kansas game at Kansas. I mean, that game was absolutely nuts, double overtime. They could have won that one. What they did to Texas at home, they're as good as anybody in the country right now. I think they should feel like they can play with anybody.
And
look, now Baylor, Shannon is healthy, Sean. McCullough's hurt, but you got Shannon back. I feel like Mark Adams has just done a great job. McCullough's been hurt all year. Shannon's been hurt all year. And somehow they've been able to do this. And again, they didn't get the A-list transfers out of the portal. They really did. Bryson Williams, UTEP, people were like, he's okay. You had Adonis Arms coming from Winthrop. Now, he came from a winning program, and I think that was important. But these guys have bought in to their roles. Davion Warren, Nadolny coming off the bench. He's a JUCO prep school kid who played for Chris Chan. They just got dudes that buy the culture is so strong down there, Sean, that I feel like, again, it's all about toughness, competing, defending. They've got their system defensively. And Mark Adams, again, has done a hell of a job moving over his seat.
If you're a top 5 defensive team in the country, I mean, you could beat anybody on any given night, home or away, and what you're finding is they're in America's toughest conference, and they're one of the best teams in that conference. I mean, that's the point. I know their home crowd is terrific. And, if I were a Texas Tech fan, I'd get to the game early and support that team and that coach.
And drink.
With all my
and drink too outside. They got beer trucks.
Yeah. It's something to be proud of. It really is. I mean, they're doing an outstanding job. Their defense is terrific. And Baylor, has there been a team that's gone through more injuries than those guys? It just seems like the last 6 weeks it's been constant. But, losing Big John the other night, I mean, he was a big impact on their team a year ago. I mean, he seems to be a real leader. I mean, he gives them that inside presence, and they're going to miss him. They'll figure it out. But like all of us, you only have so many talented players. And when you lose one of them, I mean, you do the best you can, and sometimes your chemistry gets better or whatever, and you figure it out, but you still never quite become the best you could have become. I think Carolina's going through some of that with losing Dawson Garcia. They counted on him. I mean, he was a proven
He's
player.
a good player.
I mean, he would have been a very, very good ACC player, and they don't have him. And I think losing John will hurt Baylor. I hope they can pick it up. They certainly have a lot of other good players, but that was a tough blow that happened this week. And I watched it, Jeff. I got sick to my stomach.
I was there,
running across half court. It's just, it's not right.
I was there, and it was brutal. I mean, seeing the replay, and Scott Drew after the game went over to the hospital and saw him. And this is a kid who's all about, I mean, again, they call him Everyday John for a reason, right? The kid plays hard. He practices hard every single possession. Flo Thamba was good in that game. He was really good against Texas. But again, sometimes that first game or the game, you're playing on emotion, right? Raw emotion. And I think Texas is big also.
Baylor's going to need Jeremy Sohan. They're going to need him to almost play small ball with him at the 5 like they did tonight with Mayer. But even the big guy being gone, their 3 guards haven't been together for how many games in a row. They haven't had Flagler, Cryer, and Akinjo. Maybe tonight was the first time in a few weeks they've even had those 3. But Baylor's going to take a hit with him, no doubt.
Yeah, I don't think, guys, here's my thought. I think they can go to the Final Four. I don't know if they can win 6 straight without Everyday John. You
sound like Ken Palm.
I know.
You sound like Ken. You're biting the apple right now. It's good to see. I mean, that's exactly what he said.
You love this.
The net to get to the Final Four is much broader. The net to win it all, we're talking about an infinite amount of teams that are capable. And I think your point is right. But I guess at about 7 years ago or whatever it was, if you remember, Jeff, we had Brandon Ashley, and I think we won 21 games in a row at Arizona. We were kind of that wire to wire #1 team, and he went down, and and it just gave me that sick feeling that I saw the other night when Big John went down for Baylor. It's just, you repair around them, you do some things maybe even a little better moving forward, but you never quite become the team you could have become because he's just too good. He's too meaningful. And that would be my fear for Baylor. That injury at this time is really a tough blow for that team.
Because you got to reinvent yourself a little bit, like you did with Ashley being out. And Sohan's been great as kind of a face-up 4. Now he's got to learn a different position. He's got to rebound at a higher level. Now, offensively, I think they're going to be tougher to stop in a lot of ways. But, one of the things I talked to Scott Drew earlier, and he said, I forget what number he said they are offensive rebounding in the country. And my take is, a lot of that was because of Everyday John, though.
Right.
That's why you're going to take that away. And that was a huge component to Baylor's success. And Arch, you made a great point. When they get healthy, we can't judge this team until all their guards get healthy. They've all been hurt. Akinjo.
I think the bottom line with Baylor is if you watch them November, December, and before they really started to go through conference play and get banged up, they were clearly the favorite in everyone's mind. They were the most impressive team with what they were doing. And I think a big part of it is those 3 guards. Those 3 guards are good. And when they have those 3 guards going and they're playing well, I think those other guys around them, can do some things. But Meyer's going to have to step up and play a bigger role, for him right now. He
scares me. Like, I just don't think, guys, that he's just been so inconsistent. He'll have his games where he can go for 18 or 20, but then he'll have his games where, he'll go for 2 or 4 or 6. And if you've got enough other dudes, which they do, they've got a lot of guys that can score 15 to 20. Your boy Akinjo's got to get his shot going again.
Yep. He played really well the last 2 games in terms of running the show, passing the ball defensively. Like, he played really well, and he started off real well tonight. I mean, as you approached halftime, I thought he put together a great first half, but sometimes what James lets bother him, Jeff, is if he misses a couple threes, because he's worked so hard to become a good shooter. He's come so far from where he would have been as a young player that he presses. And sometimes he can almost get in his own head and sometimes almost get away from doing all of those other things that he does exceptionally well. And that's why when his shot's going down from three, it almost works the other way. But no doubt about it, look, not just James, but I think everybody has to do a little bit more or something different than they once did because of the injury.
All right, when we come back from the break, we'll tell you why the Xavier Musketeers are in enough trouble that they might not make the NCAA tournament this year for the 4th consecutive season.
Oh, that didn't.
They're going to make it.
You're clear, guys. You got a minute and a half.
All right. I'm going to throw some questions out from the chat here. And Greg, didn't you throw me a few here somewhere? So I saw them somewhere. Now I got to find them again. All right. Who is most likely to steal a bid in the ACC tournament if a non-bubble team were to win it? So obviously Duke out of the equation, take Wake out of the equation, take Miami out of the equation,
Virginia
take Notre
Tech.
Dame out.
Virginia Tech.
1 minute.
Good call. Yeah, good call. I would
Virginia
agree with that.
Tech.
John?
Virginia Tech's that team.
Well, let me ask you this. Where would you say Virginia is at this moment?
They would be in that. They're not in the tournament. So if you've said that they could win the tournament, they'd be a bid stealer.
I just think their style of play is just, it's so hard on a quick turnaround. You know, they're a team that has that identity. They're used to winning. Hey, they have
30 seconds.
a point guard on their team who played in the national championship game and won it. And, you know, could they win enough games in the ACC tournament? I mean, they just went to Duke and won, right?
All right, quick one. I'm interrupting you, Sean, because you are long-winded at times.
Go ahead.
15.
Quick, 5 seconds, each of you. From Jordan, can Texas Tech win the national title?
10.
Yes or no, Arch?
No.
Sean?
No.
5 seconds.
If you want to know why they don't shoot the
Go
three
live.
well enough.
They do not. You're right. All right. Welcome back to the Field of 68 After Dark, presented by Bet Rivers. We are on Sirius XM ESPN Radio, channel 84. Jeff Goodman here with Sean Miller, with Archie Miller. It's been a crazy, crazy night. And I think the craziest thing that might have happened tonight wasn't Carolina losing at home to Pittsburgh. Wasn't Rutgers winning another one at the rack. I think it might have been Xavier in this slide now and losing at home at the Cintas Center, which Sean is going to talk about here in a minute, to St. John's, a very average St. John's team. Now they got some talent. Julian Champagne's terrific. Now Xavier's 3-5 in their last 8 with home losses to St. John's and DePaul. Upcoming at UConn, at Providence. Sean, is this a Xavier team that has got to be worried right now? And you know how this fan base can get. Should they be worried about not being in the tournament for the 4th straight year?
Well, they can't think like that. But here's what I will say. We have enough information watching Xavier that they are a very good team. Right now, they're an NCAA tournament team. I happened to be at their last game against UConn, and they really beat UConn almost from start to finish. Here's what I would say. That program, its history has always been built on some level of toughness and having a chip on your shoulder. Back in the day, it was the conference that Xavier played in. It then went to the Atlantic 10 conference, and, you know, it didn't always look right. Not every team was perfect, but there was just an inherent toughness that when you played Xavier, you knew that there was going to be a highly competitive group. You know, things have changed. They're in the Big East. Their arena is beautiful. They are talented. They are skilled. They've played good basketball. And like tonight, they didn't play with that chip on their shoulder. And, you know, and I think like just even me being a fan of Xavier and Travis is, you know, like that's unacceptable. Like they have to bring it every single night. That Big East conference, you know, Mike Anderson is very, very good coach. I mean, when you play them, their style is tough. If you're not ready at the tip, I mean, you're vulnerable. And I think that loss tonight had a lot to do with just Xavier's overall approach and readiness, coming off of a big home win against UConn. It was almost like they tried to feel the game out. And you can't do that in today's Big East Conference. And you certainly can't do that against a gritty, tough-minded St. John's team. And, those guys, they have to adjust, because maybe what they need is that gauntlet that you mentioned, Jeff. Sometimes when you look at it the other way, it brings out the best in you. I remember watching them early in Madison Square Garden against Virginia Tech when they had a couple guys out and sick, and they found the way, and they looked like that team with the chip on their shoulder. They have to play that way down the stretch, because no matter how skilled and how much success they've had, how many teams are playing for a lot right now on their remaining schedule? I mean, just about every one of them, so I think it's just, it was disappointing to watch how they played tonight. I think they got what they deserved, and hopefully they can bounce back.
Arch, I'm going to give you some numbers.
Yeah.
Okay. Since 1985, Pete Gillen, 7 of 9. Skip Prosser, 4 of 7. Thad Matta, 3 of 3. Your brother, 4 of 5. Chris Mack, 8 of 9. That's 26 of 33 years since 1985. They've made the NCAA tournament. Why? I listen, I watch them, and the one thing I say is, and Sean, you were just there, so you can weigh in after, but trying to play these two big guys together defensively. I know you want to get your 5 best players on the court, and Fremantle and Nunge are clearly 2 of your 5 best players. But I just feel like the game has passed that by defensively. Nunge can step out. He can shoot it. But I just don't know if those guys fit together defensively the way you need to play in today's college basketball.
I don't know, Jeff. I mean, Arch, you can weigh in, but the one thing you look at when you do play two bigs is their skill level. And can one of the two play on the perimeter defensively more than the other, so you're covered there? And I think that, look, they've gotten to where before today's game, they were a no-brainer. I mean, some people had them as high as a 5 seed in the tournament. So I think you have your answer to the question.
A lot of it came without Fremantle, Sean. A lot of those wins came without Fremantle.
No,
that's
you're
all
right.
I'll say.
Yeah, you're right. But you have to play with the chip on your shoulder. You have to play.
It starts
hard.
there. It starts playing Xavier basketball is what you're saying.
And just, it's not even Xavier's basketball. It's, hey, look, in February, Arch, we talked about it earlier. Some teams have given in. Some teams are playing with house money, no pressure. Hey, some teams are playing for everything. They've worked since early June through COVID and have said, we're going to be picked this year on Selection Sunday. And it's a desperation of like, no one in the country is going to play harder than we are. If we lose, we lose, but the effort level is going to be unquestioned. And, I think that to watch Xavier, they almost appeared to be spoiled in their performance tonight. And I hope they learned their lesson and they can bounce back, because they have to play at St. John's. They have to play at UConn. They have to play at Providence. And all 3 of those games, you're going to play against a lot of toughness. You got to be that yourself.
Arch, you don't have to be nearly as diplomatic as Sean does when talking about Xavier. Tell me. Yeah. I mean, tell me a little. Are you worried that they don't get in with their remaining schedule?
I'm not worried that they're not going to get in. I mean, at the end of the day, if you look at their remaining schedule with how they're defending right now, they're going to be favored in one of their remaining 5 games.
It's not good.
But you win one of those, the next thing you know, it changes. But Xavier's downfall here in February and why they've been a little bit inconsistent is whether their offense dictates their defense or it's just their defense, but the defense is plummeting. They gave up 90 points at home tonight to St. John's. And I think at the end of the day, even though they didn't have Nate Johnson tonight, who's a big, big part of what they do, defensively in the Cintas Center, I've been in that game myself. That's a hard game to get 90 points in that arena. And I think if Xavier's going to, right their ship and start to play the way that they want, which is a top 5-6 seed, which is probably where they're at. Defensively is where they've had a lot of slippage here recently. And, I think they have 5 games left. At UConn, at Providence, Seton Hall at home, at St. John's, and Georgetown at home. They're going to have to play really, really well to be in those games, not win them. I mean, yeah. I think, Sean, of all these games that's going on these next 3 weeks, even this week, the teams that right now are dogs in terms of how they're competing, that's what it takes at this time of year to survive the last 3 weeks of the season, because everybody's banged up. The pressure is up. The games are at the highest level of emotion that you're going to be in. Sometimes the shots aren't going to fall. The road environments are going to be ruthless.
And you're banged up.
At the end of the day, the teams that are absolutely grinding you during the games, that are competing and playing, they're the teams that you got to have some faith in. So tonight's performance probably doesn't do that. But Xavier has shown this year they're a very good team.
Jeff, sometimes a performance like tonight is the wake-up call that you need.
Yeah.
Because it's a reminder that, you want to play around with the game. I mean, it's like, that analogy of, you ever see a little kid enter the swimming pool versus, an older person? The older person, dips their foot in, takes them 5 minutes. They have a bad back. They go down the ladder.
That's you,
see
Sean.
This little kid come
Sean,
and
that's you.
Jump in and jump in cannonball. Like if you're Xavier, you got to be the little kid jumping in the pool. Like, let's go, man. March man. Paul Scruggs, this is it. Preseason All Big East player, very good player. You want to leave Xavier and have an opportunity to be a pro. Nobody cares about the team that doesn't make the tournament or that doesn't play well at the end of the year. And you know what? I watched the game last night. That reminds me of, you want to talk about toughness, the Wisconsin Badgers. Names and faces change. Those guys went into just a rabid assembly hall, and they went and they just played and they played. They got down, they got up. And I'll tell you this, I saw at the end of the game, I've never seen a team dare another team to make a game-winning shot. They literally just backed up and just said, go ahead, shoot a wide open 3. If you make it, you win, but we know you're not going to make it. And I think Indiana took like 3 in a row. And here's my question for this Field of 68 podcaster, Arch. Are they using your shooting drills? Is like, what is it that you did that prevented them from making those wide open, uncontested, game-winning shots? Like, I wish I had video footage of it. They didn't even put a hand up on 2 of them. What is it that you did out here where you live? I'll leave the location anonymous, but what did you do to not allow them to make those shots, Arch?
I didn't see the game, so I can't comment, but hopefully they're not using my shooting drills. They didn't work either.
I love the brotherly banter between the two of you here. That's little brother just not going back at big bro here. So we're gonna take a break. We're gonna come back. We're gonna hit a little bit on UConn and why they're back. They might have got a wake up call a couple weeks ago against Creighton at home. We'll also tell you, Sean Miller has a National Player of the Year pick that you are going to be absolutely blown away by.
No,
so make
why?
sure you
blown
stick
away.
around.
Why would I be blown away?
I'm blown away by it, so make sure you stick around.
I know why Mama Hog's mad at you.
You're clear.
Oh man, yeah. Mama
Can we
Hog.
get Mama Hog on Field of 68?
We are. We're gonna get Mama Hog on.
Can I be on that show?
Yeah, we'll get her.
Oh, Jeff, I got
called
advice
you
for
goody,
you. Don't go to Arkansas anytime soon.
No, I'm not.
Stay right
I'm
here.
not. There's no chance I'm going there. They will absolutely kill me. All right. Question. Is Kofi Coburn overrated? From Rob Doster. I think he asked this question.
From Rob Doster?
I that's what it says on the group chat here.
1 minute.
Doster doesn't want to get into that battle
He really
with the
doesn't.
Lion Eye.
Tell him why Kofi is not overrated.
Kofi's not overrated. Kofi arguably is the Big Ten Player of the Year, and he's arguably right up there in National Player of the Year.
Is he the biggest human that you guys have ever?
Zach Edey's bigger than him.
Well, he's bigger this way, but Kofi is bigger this way.
I don't
Hey,
know
let me
if
tell you,
I don't
a
know if
couple
I've
of-
come across a that big,
30
and
seconds.
that athletic, built, and can do what he does off the ground. I don't know if I've seen that big who jumps the way he jumps and runs the way he runs.
A couple years ago, the big fella from New Mexico State
Oh,
Sim?
yeah,
15.
Simbular.
is the biggest person I've watched walk on a basketball
10
basketball
seconds.
court.
Human.
I mean, I didn't really know what to tell our big guy.
5.
When Tarzuski looked like he was 6'4", I knew
Here we go.
it was big.
All right. Welcome back to the Field of 68 After Dark, presented by Bet Rivers. It is Wednesday night. We're on Sirius XM ESPN Radio Channel 84. We are also live on Twitter at the Field of 68, live on YouTube. So make sure you subscribe there as well. I am Jeff Goodman from Stadium. I'm with Sean Miller and Archie Miller, and I can't wait for this one. I've been waiting all hour for this, Sean, because we're going to go through our National Player of the Year and our National Coach of the Year now. And I know who you're going to pick, unless you were just throwing me off before the show started. But I know who you're going to pick. It's going to be a little bit of a drum roll here, but I don't want to give it away yet. I kind of want to wait on this one. So I'm going to let Arch go first, and then me, and then we're going to get to you. So, Arch, start us off. Who is your National Player of the Year and why?
Oscar is my National Player of the Year. I don't think that a player does more for their team than him. And I don't think if you take him off their team, Kentucky's anywhere near where they are right now without him. I mean, I'm not going to say how many games they would win, but what he does for Kentucky and how he pretty much controls the paint for their team, the statistics that he puts up. Oscar, to me, is the National Player of the Year today.
All right, so I'm going to go next, and I'm going to go with Johnny Davis, because
Good
I
one.
don't know if I've seen a player this year mean more to his team. And I know you could say that for Oscar too. You could say it for everybody we're going to pick, because that's why they're the National Player of the Year. You take them off their
No,
team.
but there's some guys on good teams that you can
Right.
take off, and they're still going to be pretty good.
Exactly.
You know,
Like
I don't think
if
that
you take
I
Johnny
don't think that
Davis,
Wisconsin and Kentucky are going to be anywhere near the team if you take those two guys off the team.
I mean, honestly, I say without Johnny Davis, I'm not sure they're an NIT team. Like they probably are, but I'm not sure they're a definitive NIT team. And what Johnny Davis has done in West Lafayette, in Bloomington, there are not, I mean, those are two of the top 8 venues in the country, toughest places to play.
Do you know what
he
he's
has
done? You know what he's done for the first time, I think, in program history. I'm not sure the date. They've won at Michigan State, Breslin. They've won at Assembly Hall, and they won at Mackey Arena. He averages 30 and 11 in those 3 wins on the road this
insane.
year.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, how do you not give it to Johnny Davis here? How do you not give it to
It's
him?
easy because America's team, America's best team, the Zags, have the best player, Drew Timme. He's number 3 in terms of Ken. I want you to think about this, okay? So far this season, we have a lot of games left. He's 153 for 241 from 2, 64%. 64% on 241 2-point shots. Do you know how dominant that is? And, you know, look, the other part is, I mean, you have to reward these guys for the way they're winning. He came in as a freshman, Jeff. They were 31-2. His sophomore year, they were 31-1. And right now they're 21-2. And like the days of saying, hey, they don't play anybody have ended a long, long time ago. He scores on all comers, and he'll score in this year's NCAA tournament, but he's not getting enough credit for I believe the career he's had so far, but let's just look at this year alone. That statistic, I would just ask, and Arch, you may even have the answer because of your ability to spit out stats, but I want to know another player.
Spit them out, Arch.
Close. I want to know another player that's even close when you consider that many 2s attempted and that many made, man, through 23 games. I mean, it's
I'll give
it's
you a stat,
remarkable.
Coach, for his career against Tier A opponents. All right.
This is
Tier A,
amazing that you're saying this.
Tier A opponents. The only thing that matters when you look at Gonzaga or you look at Drew Timme, Tier A,
Yeah.
the best of the best teams. He's shooting 67% from two in his career.
Come on now. Career.
That's insane.
And it's also their style.
It's the style.
But I'll tell you, he can really play. You know, I recruited him out of high school. We didn't make the cut, unfortunately. He was one of my favorite players that I watched that summer. I just loved everything about him. And you know, he's a really tough guy to deal with. I mean, he really is. I think he's the national player of the year.
All right. So the guys we haven't mentioned that are in the equation, you have to put EJ Liddell in the equation. Have to.
EJ Liddell, I just said Oscar is the national player. EJ Liddell is the Big Ten player of the year, not Johnny
So you're
Davis.
picking him over Johnny Davis then?
He's the hardest cover in college basketball.
I would agree with that. And I think he's gotten so much better. And you can speak to this, Arch. Defensively, he's gotten so much better this year than he was a year ago. Slimmed down, blocking shots.
Hey, look, right now, Ohio State's tied for first place in the Big Ten. Whoever wins the next 2 weeks for the Big Ten regular season title, and maybe there'll be some head-to-head matchups in that game, is going to win either Big Ten Player of the Year or co-Big Ten Player of the Year. But EJ Liddell is shooting 40% from three. And when he's shooting 40% from three, and they're playing him at the 4 and the 5 at times.
And he doesn't have a point guard really, Arch.
It's just, he's just such a hard cover because I don't know if I've seen a guy who's that physically strong, you know, and that physically like strong and athletic at his size, who can do what he can do on both ends of the floor. He's a very sturdy player. He's going to be a terrific NBA player.
Two more guys we haven't talked about, and we don't need to talk about them, but we got to mention them. And then you guys can add who we forgot. But I think you're down to like 6 guys at the top. Kofi and Ochai Agbaji's got to be in there, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Ochai,
No,
definitely.
if whoever wins the Big 12, like they almost should be like automatically right.
Who do you
there
give it
for
to
national.
if it's Texas Tech, though? Who do you give it to?
Right, but it's like if you win the Big 12 regular season this year and you're the best player
Kansas
on that
is 2
team,
games up right now.
Yeah, it's almost like you, not that you should be the national player of the year, but if his name's not Drew Timme, he should be national runner-up player of the year. I mean, it's those guys are all very, very good. And
Jeff, we had this a little bit earlier today. Why? Because I think if Auburn wins the outright SEC championship, I think Walker Kessler should be the SEC player of the year. Why wouldn't he?
That.
Why isn't he in the realm of these guys? Because what he's doing is historic.
Well, because you've got Oscar as the player. So you're saying if Auburn beats out,
if Auburn
Kentucky,
runs the table here down the stretch and they win the outright deal,
and most people would have Jabari Smith, who had a great game today.
He was terrific tonight. Yeah.
But you're saying the difference with Auburn is its defense, and Walker Kessler, arguably, maybe not even arguably, is the best defensive player in the country.
He's averaging, I don't think he had 6 or 7 more blocks tonight. He's averaging almost 6 blocks a game. Their team is doing some crazy things right now defensively. And all
right, we got 3 minutes. We got to get through
steals.
National Coach of the Year. All right. This one, I have no idea where you guys are going. I'll start off because I'll save you a little bit of time here. I'm going with a guy that I saw last night in Providence. I know they didn't beat Villanova, but I've been around that Providence program enough to know what Ed Cooley is doing is historic. And they could still win the Big East regular season title for the first time. Providence, they've got a new practice facility. But, man, listen, at the Dunkin' Donuts Center, guys, they don't even have a pregame meal for the media. They have punch. They don't even have waters out there. They got nothing. Cooley's got nothing. Bare bones in it.
That's where you get yourself in trouble. Just when you think you won the Providence fans over, you just lost them.
Now they're going to hate me again. And
Yeah.
I'm going to tell a story. Stay around, everybody listening, for the afters. I'm going to tell a phenomenal story about how I flipped the fan base, or at least 5 of the fans at Providence last night, from hating me to loving me. All right, Sean, you're up next. National Coach of the Year. Make it quick.
Bruce Pearl.
Why? In 30 seconds, why?
Think about a year ago, self-imposed, didn't have half the roster in April that he currently has. Added some amazing pieces. They've had this year's maybe overall best wins. Some of the best wins. They're, SEC is right below the Big 12, with the Big 10 next to it. Amazing conference. And it's just, when you watch Auburn, think about Auburn. Have you ever seen Auburn's arena look like that before? And
Never.
that's my National Coach of the Year. And I'm assuming they're going to win the SEC. And with that, I think that's who should get it.
Arch, I left you about 40 seconds. Who are you picking and why?
Greg Gard.
Ooh,
I mean,
interesting.
they were picked in the bottom half of the Big Ten to start the year. They lost about 5 seniors off of last year's team. Nobody really counted them as being one of the stronger teams in the Big Ten. They won Maui. They're at 20-5. They're in first place in the Big Ten, and he's done an unbelievable job. I know Johnny Davis, but nobody came into this year and said, hey, Greg Gard's going to be great. They got Johnny Davis. I mean, what he's done with this team has been as good as any coach, including, I think, what Cooley and Mark Adams have done. He's done an unbelievable job. And if he wins the Big Ten.
Any coach that with the Big Ten title on the line, that plays 6 feet off of back-to-back 3-point shooters for the title, you should give it to him right there just for having the courage to do that. Maybe.
All right, thanks. Thanks for joining us, everybody. For Archie Miller, for Sean Miller, I'm Jeff Goodman. Field of 68 after dark every single night on Sirius.
And you're clear. Nice.
All right.
By the way,
Yes.
Jabari Smith, he's the freshman of the year nationally, and he's the number 1 pick.
I'll give you credit. You said that a long time ago
Early.
before everybody
I think
Everybody's
the
jumping
first
on
one.
Chet's efficiency and all his numbers right now. I'm just here to tell you right now, he had 30 tonight. He hit 7 threes in that game.
Yeah, he's a stud.
He's terrific. I think a lot of people still want to pick Chet because they see, I mean, he's shooting the hell out of the ball now. And he is kind of,
he is those
unicornish.
6'3" 4 men who are guarding him. He shoots right over top of them.
Well, you are right about that. I mean, that's what they got at Pepperdine. No
Those
doubt about it.
6'4.5", maybe.
I'm going to
Welcome
see
to
the
the
St.
afters.
Mary's. Go ahead. Did I interrupt you?
No, you're good. You're
St.
good.
Mary's versus San Francisco. I'm going to see that game tomorrow night. That's I should really chart where I've gone. I mean, I've seen some good games. That'll be a really good game in the WCC. An important game for St. Mary's.
What's the best atmosphere you've seen this year, Sean, that you had never seen before?
I went to Colorado State early on, and
Yep.
I think they've had, just a great season. So having never been there before, and look, it isn't like I've been at 20 games like you. I mean, I would say that that environment, it just, it's kind of what's great about college basketball, to see a place like Colorado State and Fort Collins get behind a team like they've gotten behind. It's impressive.
Yeah, I like Fort Collins. That I always try to find a place that I've never been before each year.
Yeah.
Try to find at least one of those, if not more than one. And Fort Collins was that place for me this year, and it was a blast. I wanted to get to UAB this year.
Have you ever been to the Pit, New Mexico, Jeff?
Never. No, never.
You need to get Richard Pitino to get you that same hotel deal you had here in Tucson. and I'm telling you, like you need to make a trip there. That place is something else. And
when it's rocking,
they had a
right?
great win last night over Wyoming. And man, I tell you, you go in there, that's a different feeling as well for the visitors team.
All right, we're gonna get some questions out of the chat here, but first, I want to tell everybody kind of how I flipped this this Providence fan base last night, or at least part of them. So we walk into the arena, and Fana, and Terrence Oglesby, we did a kind of a contest for two fans, students, and we took them to Federal Hill, which is a great spot in Providence for a good Italian spot. So we paid for their dinner. Then we walked down into the building. So we walk in, and the students are they're already jumping. They're in there. They're ready to go. They've been drinking since, probably in class. My guess is whatever they brought into class, this water bottle did not contain water yesterday morning. So we get in there, and Fana walks in first, and everybody's cheering for Fana. We love Fana. We love Fana. We love everybody. It's crazy. He's like he's an A-list celebrity at every Big East arena. And then I come in behind him, and it's F you, Goodman. We hate you, Goodman. And I'm like, come on, what did I do? All I did was call you guys lucky months ago when you beat Wisconsin. You got them without Johnny Davis. You got Seton Hall coming off a 17-day pause. You got UConn without Sonogo. Things change. Fans don't understand that. What I may say in mid-December is it changes as you beat teams full throttle. Like, I get it. So anyway, they put me and Fana on the other side with Terrence Oglesby on the other side in front of there's two student sections in both end zones. So they put us in front of them. There is no room. It's almost like Duke guys. They're on top of me, and I can see it as I walk up, and I'm like, oh man, this could be rough. Like, I could get a beer poured on me tonight. It might be that bad. So I walk right up to like 5 of these dudes, and I said, hey guys, all right, come with me. And they're looking at me like, what, huh? I said, all right, we're going up. I'm going to buy each one of you 2 beers. You can't drink both. You got to give one of them to one of your buddies back down here, but we're going to go up. I'm going to buy you each 5 beers, 2 beers. So 10 beers total. Now the prices, man, it cost me like what I paid at La Paloma for that. I mean, it was like $13 a pop, but you know what, guys? It was so worth it because I had these dudes on my side last night. They were like,
they don't remember. So this morning they're still pissed.
They probably are pissed. They're like, I sold out for 2 beers for being able to dump one on Goodman's head.
You paid forward, right? Yeah.
Listen, I would want somebody to do it when I was a student at Arizona. If somebody had done that to me, now back then we couldn't drink. I don't even know. Are students allowed to drink in Tucson and McHale?
God, I don't know. It sure feels like they do, though.
It feels like everywhere they're allowed now. Everywhere.
Yeah.
But that Providence environment was really, really, really good. I don't know if you saw the video of when they played the Taylor Swift song.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man. I mean, listen, we missed it last year. You guys missed it more than anybody because you were 2 places where it was a huge home court advantage. And it's fun to coach in those environments, isn't it?
Yeah.
You depend on it.
It's certainly different for sure. I mean, the crowd just adds everything to all sports, but I almost feel like college basketball almost a little bit more, means a little bit more.
You can probably ask Ed Cooley. The dunk has probably won him 5 games.
Yeah, I mean, Cooley last year didn't even play at the dunk. He played in his gym on campus.
That's right.
Think about the difference,
played a game
right?
there. Yeah, they did. I saw that a few years ago against Seton Hall. The floor was wet. They had to resume the game the next day, the next morning. Nobody there. I stayed overnight that night. And in that little small rinky-dink old alumni hall practice facility, basically. Where's the toughest place you guys have ever had to go and coach where the fans were just ruthless? Because Providence, they are ruthless.
Ruthless, yeah.
Archie?
I still remember that.
Sean.
And I think we talked to Ed Cooley about this. I'm telling you, like going all the way back to 1987, 88, 89, 90 there. Eric Murdoch would have been playing, Carlton Screen, Marty Conlon. I mean, that was my least favorite trip then
Really?
which was, that was when you called it the Providence Civic Center. They just,
Yep.
they have a way of making you feel uncomfortable. I'm going to tell you a hidden gem of a place, and it's really, really difficult to the point where no one wants to go there.
Go ahead.
Is if you ever played UTEP in El Paso, Texas,
Oh,
with a sold out crowd. We did that when Tim Floyd was there. That gave everybody a different feeling.
I hate El Paso.
That was
you know
a
why I
hard-
hate El
hard game.
Paso? I drove once when I had to drive out to Arizona and I was 19 years old. I had a fake ID, buddy of mine, and we stopped in El Paso and we tried to get into some club in there. And the dude took my fake ID and he caught me on it. And I just said to him, I said, man, like, just give it to, like, I'm going to college. Just give me the damn fake. He took the fake ID.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
we got lost. And man, we got flipped off by a bunch of dudes in the back of a pickup. I was scared. In El Paso. It was a bad trip, but you're right. El Paso
the other one that sometimes I almost feel like no one talks about it because it's like an easy pick is the Carrier Dome. I mean,
It's
when
big,
the
though.
Carrier Dome, but when it's rocking, I mean, when you think back when I was there, I mean, you got Derek Coleman warming up down the other end. I mean, it just was a different feeling. I mean, it was very intimidating. You had to be ready to go.
Arch, was it Duke?
No, Cole Fieldhouse.
Really?
Yeah, that was tough
really?
too.
When Gary Williams and Steve Francis and Lonnie Baxter and X-Ray Hip and Juan Dixon and Steve Blake, I can keep going, but
Terrence Morris.
you played in Cole Fieldhouse. That was the nasty place to play. I mean, I think one whole side of Cole Fieldhouse in the starting lineups had newspapers in front of their face. I mean, it was just absurd what they had going. Duke's always it is, but I think you're more worried about the jump ball at Duke than you are the people over there jumping up and down. But Cole Fieldhouse, that's something else. Mackey Arena is really hard. At least it is for, it's hard for every game.
It's gotten really crazy over the last, I feel like
I'm telling you right
really
now, that place is charged up, charged up. Maggie's really charged up in there.
All right, a couple questions here. Phil Castillo says, who are the players to have, who do you think could have the biggest March Madness? Who, we always look for that, right? Coming in March, the Steph Currys of the world, the guys that can just step up and carry a team. There are a lot of good bigs this year, but like, who's that? And we've looked at it point guard wise, there aren't a lot of them. Like Colin Gillespie last night proved to me, and I don't know why I've questioned it, but I always do, because you watch Colin Gillespie and I said it to him earlier this year. It's like, he's a robot. It's like, he's a damn robot. And he took that as a major compliment when I told him that.
And
I said it to him again last night and he kind of smiled, but like, the dude is just a winner and he's just so mentally tough.
Yeah.
Those are the things about Villanova that make them, I don't care. Like, they got their holes. I get it, but I'm still not betting against Villanova come March and maybe April.
They're so accustomed to taking the other team's best shot.
Right.
The visiting arena's biggest crowd, the white out, pink out, gray out. They're always choosing Villanova and they know no other way. But I'll tell you, that performance that Colin Gillespie had, because he's still getting over his ankle injury from
he's not 100%.
I mean, it was impressive, man. He put 30 on him, and you know what? They needed all 30.
Yeah,
if he didn't have a big night, and Providence, I think, would have left the winning team. But he is, man. He's tough, and you love him because of the injury he sustained last year. We talked about injuries, right? Big John leaves Baylor. They're going to do the best they can, but that's a significant loss. Think about Villanova last year when they lost him. What a huge loss that was for their team. But to see him come back and be the player that he is right now, he could have a huge March. He's veteran, tough, older, knows what to do. Pressure, I think, brings out the best in him.
I asked him. I asked Gillespie last night. I said, was there ever a thought of just leaving, being done with school? And what he said to me was, I wasn't going to be healthy enough to work out for teams. So it didn't make sense anyway. So really the decision was kind of made for him at that point that he was going to come back. And he's just fun to watch because, again, he's so even keel.
Yeah.
You don't know if they're up 20, down 20. I don't know how many guys are like that. I asked Jay Wright that, and he said, we've had a bunch of them. And they said they kind of look for him because Brunson was like that. Archie Diacono was just like that. They've had 3 of them. And I think in a way you look at Gillespie, and I think he's learned a little bit from Brunson and from being handed down from Archie Diacono.
I think that if there's a guy in March that could really, not that he hasn't taken off yet, but they're going to need him to. So I know he's going to do it in the way that they're playing with him right now. But you could see Jaden Ivey having a 3 or a 4 game run, kind of like Carson Edwards did a few years ago, where it was just almost like a one-man band. But he's tough to deal with right now. And he could be a guy that in the NCAA tournament that could really, he could explode a little bit if you're looking for that type of guy.
Are you worried about Illinois, Arch? Are you worried? Because Curbelo has not come back to what we thought he would come back to. Frazier's good, but now he's struggling a little bit. I feel
They're
like
just not, they haven't shot the ball in the last 2.5 games very well, and they depend on a 3. When you have the big fella inside like they do, and if they're not going to make 3s, it just changes what a team can do. But Illinois has been consistent enough, and they're very good on defense where they're going to win. I personally don't think that Andre Curbelo is helping them right now. I think when he's out, they developed a really good chemistry with Frazier and Plummer in their rotation. Now, for them to reach and maximize their deal, can he get back to being who he was? He just has had a really tough year with the concussion and whatnot. And it just seems they're not all in sync when he's in there, because Trent Frazier had handled the ball so much that he got into a great groove without him. And, when he's back, Trent becomes more of a off the ball guy. But I'm not worried about him. I think they're a Sweet 16 type of a team. The big fella is obviously a big problem, but
Jeff, I also want to bring this up. And I believe this, every coach agrees with me that was coaching last year in COVID. Things happened in March last year that never, ever would have happened if fans were in the building and COVID wasn't present. I mean, I want you to think about this really, really carefully. Oregon State was in the game to go to the Final Four.
Yeah,
and I know they lost a lot, but remember, they had to actually win the Pac-12 tournament to get in. And right now they're 3-20. They're 3-20.
they did an awful job in the portal, Sean. Awful. No, they did.
I wasn't paying attention, obviously, but a year ago, and I told Arch this, like, they were physical, and Wayne Tinkle's teams are physical, but it's just even like, you know, traveling to the first four, if that's in Dayton, you know, think about the regions. There was no regions. Everybody went to the same place. And like, you send people to regions and you have Kansas's fan base there. Don't think that maybe they bow out when they did, you know? And
like Arizona goes to Portland this year, right? They're going to have fans,
right?
Wherever they go, whether it's San Diego, it'll be San Diego.
Yeah.
Hey, think about UCLA having to go to the first four in Dayton with no fans, and Michigan State playing them with fans.
Right. Big difference.
Big.
Right. And that's unfortunately for the Pac-12 team that they send to the first four this year.
They won't have
it's really not the first four. It's the first.
They're only going to have three of those
in Pac-12. No. Here's what's going to happen. Someone's going to enter that NCAA tournament as the conference tournament champion. And whoever that team is going to Dayton. You can mark that down.
They don't have a first four team this year.
It could be Oregon.
Well, Oregon has the games in front of them.
They're right there. I mean, honestly,
they could be
first four.
Oregon has Arizona, UCLA, USC, all in a row left, and two of them are at home. The LAs are at Oregon, but they got to win them all.
One thing that's going to hurt Dana Altman down the stretch is that I'm not coaching. He beat my ass 6 times in a row.
Did he beat you 6 in a row?
6 in a row.
No wonder why you think he's John Wooden.
And you know, 2 of them, I think, no, 3 of them were like the last actual play of the game, you know, however you go. But yeah, so fact I'm out of his way is not a good thing for him.
Didn't they stay at La Paloma?
I don't know if they got the deal that some people are getting when they come here. I know that, but there's no doubt they like Tucson. That be a huge game on Saturday. I think it's a huge game for Oregon. It's also a huge game for Arizona because trying to win the Pac-12 regular season championship. Obviously, they're alive for that 1 seed. And you know, you talk about a different type of pressure, Jeff. We talked earlier about Xavier. You know, look, just got to keep playing here in February and on your way to that tournament. There's other pressure of, you know, now you're playing with that burden of being a 1 seed and you have to keep being yourself. That's not as easy as everybody thinks either. And there's probably 6 to 8 teams that are feeling that right now.
All right. Another question in the chat here. Who wins this weekend? Tennessee at Arkansas.
Arkansas.
Sean?
Then that
Home
place
crowd.
is-
I mean, it's what we
that
just
place
talked
is
about.
going to be bonkers.
Oh, I
And-
kind of
and
want to
Jay-
go, but
By the way,
But I-
Tennessee equally has the home court advantage going on in
Yeah.
Knoxville right now.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's in a great environment as well. Tennessee's a different team on the road scoring the ball. And I think Arkansas's defense is really playing well right now. But that's another guy, by the way, in March, you better watch out for is JD Note. Is it
Note.
yeah.
He's
That
good.
dude right there, man.
He's
he
a
is
really
serious.
good player. Yeah.
He is serious.
He's a really, really, really good player. But that, you know, that's the thing someone was asking me about the Pac-12, you know, earlier today or yesterday. And I think that's the one thing that the Pac-12 has lost, maybe perhaps more than any other conference because of the pandemic and COVID. You know, it's the area, it's the footprint, it's LA County. But, you know, this year, got to keep in mind, like both USC and UCLA played games where they didn't have people. Ditto for Stanford. And then you watch like an Auburn or an Arkansas or Tennessee, and you got like 18 or 20,000 of the most excited, rabid fans in that building. And, you know, I think that's hurt the Pac-12 a little bit, you know, especially when you compare it to those other conferences.
I want to know my question. Who would you rather host with you guys? The choices are me, Fana, Doster, or Mama Hog.
Can we get Mama Hog on here?
I mean, no question, you would absolutely.
We need Mama Hog and Goody in the same pod, and we'll referee.
She can get after it.
That's one of the things that's made me laugh harder than I've laughed in a long, long time when I saw that video. I mean it. That was special. But Fana, Fana is Tom Brady. I mean, he makes everybody around him better, Jeff.
He does.
It's all you have to do is just go along for the ride, man. He's talented.
Is that the first game
he just has to
Providence has lost when Fana is at the game?
I think it's when he's called games. So I think they're still intact. I think
so. He just went to the game as a fan last night?
Correct. He didn't call. So I think we're still good. And Cooley's just got to get him on the call. That was the problem. It was a CBS Sports Network.
Oh yeah,
game.
yeah. It was a different network.
Lapis, but they got to just figure it out. Like Cooley, if I'm Cooley, I'm slipping CBS Sports Network some cash.
Yeah,
Fox, you got to have them on every game from here on out.
Fana's got to get on the NCAA tournament so he can do one of those Gus Johnson finish calls.
Oh my God. How about Hummel's got a decent game out there right now. Gonzaga's only up 14 in Malibu. I told Hummel, like, get out in the beach. He'd been out there for 2 days. He hadn't even
tell you
seen
what,
the
I give
beach
Robbie
yet.
credit. It isn't like he's just hunkered down in the Midwest doing the Big Ten. He's everywhere.
Everywhere. Every night. It should be honestly a contest of every night. Where's Hummel? And I kind of started it, but it should be every day. Like, where's Hummel? And he should have to take a picture wherever he is. When he sees that tweet, that's where he is every day.
Well, trust me, the place he's at right now, he wants to be there longer than some of the other places he's gone to. I mean,
yeah, you don't think he wants to come back to Chicago right now, being in Malibu? Lorenzo
Yeah.
Romar could stay there forever, right? Forever, and be happy.
He is the nicest person that
Ever.
I've ever been around. One of the great people in college sports, and any player that he's coached, any person that's worked with him, or anybody that knows him would say the exact same thing as me. He's the
I
best.
tell you
remember-
what, back in 2006, Julius Hodge, NC State, returned a game to Washington. And I'm telling you right now, that may have been one of the most absurd arenas that I was ever in.
They're right on
Really?
top of you. Mhm.
Brandon Roy, Nate
Oh.
Robinson, Trey Simmons, Bobby Jones. And I mean, you talk about a squad,
Yeah.
but that place was on fire that night. I mean, it was the first time I was ever there. I was like, this is like Cameron, because
had
they're
it
right
rolling,
behind
man.
you. They're right
Mhm.
behind you, and they had it rolling. Brandon Roy,
Oh,
I know he's like long gone now with his knee. When he was at Washington and they played him at the 4, oh my God.
Yeah.
all right. Let's finish, guys, with our cheers of the night. Arch, I'll let you start off with, unless you want me to, if you need some time to think about your cheers of the night. But,
Cheers of the night.
yeah, who you doing your cheers? Pick somebody. You guys have done this before, haven't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've done it. Why don't you go first?
I'll go first. All I got. What do I got here? Hold on. I got to find something that's drink worthy here. I don't know. I got to go out and buy some more stuff, but I got some Shipyard or something. I'm going to cheer to Jeff Capel and the Pitt Panthers.
Yeah.
I don't know how
Heck
you
of a
keep
win.
it. They've had a tough go. Those kids, man, they get a win like that at Carolina in Chapel Hill. It's one they'll never forget. So for the kids, for Jeff Capel, to me, cheers.
No doubt. That was a big win. I think
I got mine.
certainly their best win of the year. And, you know,
No
as much
doubt.
as you want to hate on North Carolina for losing the game, you have to give credit where credit's due. Like Arch said, they made 10 threes, and they showed up, man. They showed up after a lot of tough things on their path to getting there. You know, look, I'm gonna toast. I watched that Providence game. I love Ed Cooley. I'm gonna toast like the whole thing. Jay Wright, Colin
You're toasting the
Gillespie.
wrong night again.
Right. Toast tonight,
You got to
Sean.
toast tonight.
We've been
Tonight.
on here so long, it feels like tonight. I don't even know what day it is.
You always toast the other day.
God damn, Sean. Keep up. Keep up. There's
Go ahead.
rules that go
Arch,
along with
Arch,
cheers.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm definitely cheering, sending the cheers out to Rutgers, Steve Peichel, his staff, and his
Yep.
team. That is a tough, gritty, hard
Yeah.
group from the boss man all the way to the last player on the bench. And those guys are playing really well. And tonight, being able to knock off Illinois at home, just another step in them playing their way into the tournament.
Yeah. I'm gonna second Arch's toast, Jeff. I don't have
Come
one
on,
any
Sean.
better. I don't.
Arch, can we?
Let me
we
give a
gotta get
second
him
toast.
prepared.
Let me give a second toast. I'm going to put a second toast out there to the number 1 pick in the draft, Jabari Smith. He
It's a
was
good one.
10 for 16, 7 for 10 from 3 for 31 points tonight at home in another win. And you could salute Walker Kessler for another 22 points and 7 blocks as well.
I actually got my toast.
All right, what do you got?
I'm going to toast Nate Oates, top assistant. Nate got tossed tonight from the
Good one.
game.
I like it.
They were down at home to Mississippi State. And without Nate Oates there, the rest of the staff and that young
I
coach.
didn't realize he got tossed. I thought he got tossed after the game, like they had won it.
No.
I didn't realize it was in
They went on a
jeopardy.
run after
Yeah.
he got tossed, and he didn't get his money's worth at all.
Yeah.
He's getting his money's worth on the phone right now.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
I'll tell
he
you this, it's a tough situation to be put in. And I thought that Alabama staff did a great job.
Yep.
He did a great job. And you know what? Maybe he needs a little bonus money for the job that he did, being that he He got a very important victory. You lose that game at home, their path to winning Arch's national championship gets that much harder.
Hey, did you see the number one strength of schedule in America?
Is that
They
what-
got that covered.
Oh, it's ridiculous. It
They
is
got that covered.
ridiculous.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, listen, thanks to everybody for joining us tonight on Field of 68 After Dark. I'm Jeff Goodman. Sean Miller, thanks. Arch, thanks.